Have you ever stopped to think about just how much power your mindset actually has over your day-to-day life? It's a really big question, isn't
I
it?
absolutely is.
Well, today we're doing a deep dive right into that. We're exploring the core ideas from Jeff Keller's book, Attitude is Everything: Mindset, Words, Action. Pretty influential stuff.
That's right. And our source material today is essentially a review of Keller's guide. It's really popular and people praise it for being super direct, actionable.
Yeah.
And it has this deeply motivational tone. So it's often seen as this like quick, easy to get into read if you're looking to build a more positive mindset. Inspiring, really.
Right. So our mission here is pretty clear.
Mhm.
We want to pull out the most important bits, the key knowledge from this book.
Mhm.
We want to help you understand what really matters when it comes to using a positive attitude to, well, boost your success both personally and professionally.
Yeah.
And what jumps out right away about this book,
Yeah.
it's not some heavy psychological text, is it?
Not at all. It's framed much more as a practical guide. Super practical. It's packed with these motivational stories, and the instructions are just crystal clear.
And that simplicity is kind of its strength, you could say.
Exactly. It gives you this really straightforward framework. Keller calls it the think, speak, act model. And what's great is it takes this potentially complex subject and just boils it down into concrete steps. Makes it super accessible for anyone who's, ready for a change.
Okay, so let's unpack that framework. Starting with the first pillar, the power of your mind. Keller just calls it think.
Simple enough?
Yeah. And he puts forward this foundational idea.
Mm.
Your thoughts literally create the foundation for your reality. He uses this really memorable concept, you are a human magnet.
I like that.
The idea is basically that whatever you consistently focus on mentally, you tend to pull into your life, whether it's good outcomes or, well, negative ones.
Right.
It's like your mind is constantly setting your life's direction. Makes you think, what have you been attracting lately?
And what's so interesting about that human magnet idea, beyond just being catchy, is how much it lines up with psychological concepts like self-fulfilling prophecies.
Okay.
Yeah, this isn't just, positive thinking fluff. It's a recognized pattern. When you genuinely believe something deep down about yourself, about what's possible, your actions start to align with that belief, often without you even realizing it.
Subconsciously.
Exactly. So using this magnetic power isn't just about thinking happy thoughts. It's about understanding why you believe what you do and actively building an internal story that supports the reality you actually want.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So building on that, Keller then talks about picture your way to success. Visualization.
A classic.
Right. And he explains it's not just daydreaming. Mentally rehearsing the outcomes you want actually conditions your mind.
Right. And
Builds these pathways
world pathways, yeah.
that prepare you to act when the real opportunities show up, like a mental walkthrough.
That's a great way to put it.
And holding all this together is commitment is key. He really hammers this home, the importance of unwavering commitment, even when you hit major roadblocks.
Crucial.
He basically argues this kind of dedication is non-negotiable if you want to achieve anything really difficult.
Precisely. And the why behind visualization is fascinating. It literally primes your brain for action. It lowers the perceived barriers.
Oh, so.
Well, if you've already seen yourself succeed in your mind, your brain is less likely to view obstacles as totally insurmountable when they appear.
Right, it feels more possible.
Exactly. And commitment, that's like your internal compass. It keeps you pointed towards your goal even when the seas get rough,
Yeah.
Keeps you oriented despite all the external chaos. These mental practices really set the stage for everything else. They build that inner strength.
Okay, so you start getting your thoughts aligned. Then the next crucial piece in Keller's framework is the impact of your words. The speak pillar. This focuses on the power of language, both the stuff you say to yourself, your internal dialogue, and what you say out loud.
Both are key.
He has this phrase, words blaze a trail. The idea is that the language you choose, especially if it's positive and empowering, can literally carve out a path forward. It propels you towards your goals.
And what's really powerful here is that it goes beyond just like motivation. It's about cognitive reframing.
Cognitive reframing.
Changing your language can actually change how you perceive reality. So instead of thinking, oh, I have to finish this report, you might reframe it as, okay, I get to wrap this up tonight so tomorrow's clear. See the difference?
Yeah, definitely. Burden versus opportunity.
Exactly. That small shift in words can change your whole emotional response, your energy level around it.
He gives a really specific, simple example, too. How you answer, how are you?
Ah, yes, the standard responses.
Right. Keller says, ditch the automatic, kind of meh responses like fine or okay. Instead, consciously choose something positive.
Like what?
Well, genuinely saying, I'm having a fantastic day, or things are really looking up. Think how often we default to just fine.
Too often, probably. It becomes automatic.
And another big one he stresses is stop complaining. His point is simple. Complaining doesn't fix anything. It just reinforces negativity and sucks your energy.
Right. It keeps you stuck in the problem.
Exactly. So his advice is shift your focus. Move from dwelling on the problem to actively looking for solutions.
And that's where you see the huge impact of these seemingly small changes, that positive answer to how are you? It can actually boost your own energy, and it can shift the whole tone of your interactions with others.
It's a different vibe.
Totally. And the stop complaining thing, it's not about pretending problems don't exist. It's about redirecting that mental and verbal energy, taking it away from the negative spiral and putting it towards constructive action.
Okay.
It's really a shift in personal agency, realizing you control that internal narrative,
Right. Taking back control. Okay, so that brings us to the final piece, the ACT pillar, the importance of action.
Because attitude isn't enough on its own.
Exactly what Keller says. Attitude is transformative, yes, but you need consistent, deliberate action to actually see results, to make things happen.
Makes sense.
One key bit of advice here is associate with positive people. Keller really emphasizes how much your environment, the people you hang out with, affect your attitude and energy.
Oh, absolutely.
He advises actively seeking out positive, inspiring people, and just as importantly, limiting time with those he calls dream killers.
That's interesting. When we look at associating with positive people, there's a real psychological concept at play. Social contagion.
Social contagion, like catching a cold.
Sort of. Emotions and attitudes can actually spread between people. You know how mood can be infectious?
Yeah, definitely.
Being around positive, motivated people can genuinely lift your spirits and drive, partly because our energy and outlook rub off on you.
Okay, that makes sense. He also pushes you to confront your fears.
A big one.
Yeah. He points out that avoiding fears doesn't work. It actually makes them seem bigger, more intimidating.
Gives them power.
Right. But taking even that first tiny step to face them, that's a win. And it's the path to growth, to mastering yourself. And then there's this idea, which can be tough, but also freeing. Get out there and fail.
Counterintuitive for some, maybe.
Totally. But he frames failure not as the opposite of success, but as just part of the process, an essential part.
Learning opportunities.
Exactly. Embrace mistakes, learn from them, and just keep going. Know that each failure is just data. He also mentions networking. Networking with a positive attitude, because that winning outlook makes you more connectable, helps you build that valuable network.
Absolutely. And confronting fears, like Keller suggests, lines up perfectly with principles from exposure therapy.
Exposure therapy?
Yeah, it's about gradually desensitizing yourself to things you fear through planned and controlled action. And embracing failure. That's so critical for building resilience, for innovation. It really makes you ask, how often do we really internalize that failure is just information, not some final judgment?
That's a good question. We pay lip service to it, but do we believe it?
Right. It's data, not destiny. And about networking, Keller's spot on. Your attitude is awfully the first impression. A positive vibe makes you seem approachable, trustworthy, someone people want to connect with. It directly impacts building that professional circle.
So, okay, we've walked through the Think, Speak, Act framework. Let's maybe take a step back and look at the strengths of attitude is everything overall.
Sounds good.
I mean, it really is super easy to read, isn't it? Easy to digest.
Very accessible.
Yeah, it's concise. The language is simple, not academic. And he uses lots of relatable stories, analogies. Makes it easy for anyone to pick up.
Agreed.
And a huge strength is just how actionable it is. It's full of practical tips you feel like you can actually start doing, like right now.
Concrete steps?
Plus, the tone is just consistently motivational, uplifting. It leaves you feeling inspired, like you can take control of your mindset.
It definitely has that positive energy.
And I think it adds something that Keller shares his own story, how he went from being a lawyer to a motivational speaker by using these exact principles himself. Adds credibility, you know.
That personal journey does add weight, definitely. But while it has these strengths, we should probably also touch on potential criticisms or limitations, right?
Fair point. What comes up?
Well, that very simplicity we praised. Some readers might find it too simple, maybe like a rehash of common self-help ideas, because it doesn't really dig deep into the psychology behind it all.
Okay, I could see that.
And there's maybe what you could call the rah-rah factor. The relentless positivity might feel a bit much for some people, or seem like it lacks nuance when you're dealing with really complex, tough, personal stuff.
Yeah, life isn't always sunshine and rainbows.
Exactly. So it's probably best seen as like a high-level guide, a starting map, maybe, rather than the definitive, exhaustive manual for every technique. Connecting it to the bigger picture, it's a fantastic starting point for shifting your mindset, but maybe not the final word for everyone.
That's a really useful distinction. A starting map, not the whole territory. So, considering all that, who would really get the most out of this deep dive, out of Keller's ideas? I'd say if you're someone looking for a quick but solid motivational kickstart, or if you're feeling kind of stuck, maybe a bit negative, overwhelmed, Keller's stuff offers a pretty clear path forward.
Yeah, cuts through the noise.
Definitely.
Yeah,
And it seems great for beginners in self-help, or honestly, just anyone who wants straightforward, practical steps to start shifting their mindset towards being more positive and proactive.
agreed. It provides that initial framework really well.
So, yeah, bringing it all together, Jeff Keller's attitude is everything. Really does deliver on its core promise, doesn't it?
I think so.
It champions the huge power of a positive attitude, and it backs it up with advice that's just straightforward, actionable, stuff anyone can grasp and start trying out.
And for you listening right now, here's maybe a final thought to chew on. Given that your thoughts, your words, and your actions are constantly, undeniably shaping your reality, what is one small specific shift, just one, that you could make today in one of those areas, think, speak, or act to start intentionally building the future you actually want?
That's a powerful question. Definitely something worth mulling over after we wrap up here. We really encourage you to think about that and maybe explore these ideas more in your own life. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep